Welcome. I'm John Rodwick, and I am an AARP Colorado volunteer. As you probably are wondering, why is AARP hosting a webinar with the Roice-Hurst Humane Society? Well, AARP Colorado feels that pets can help you feel good, both mentally as well as physically. Studies show that they can reduce stress and anxiety and can act as a lifeline in dire situations. Dog owners tend to be more physically active and less prone to obesity. Our pets can be the best accountability group for staying in shape just by walking them. Research shows that dog walking can lead to more conversations and help you stay socially connected. People with an active social life tend to live longer and can show less physical and mental decline as they age. Pets are a daily source of joy, and scientists are just beginning to understand how good they are for both our bodies and our brain. We understand that having a pet is a huge commitment that not everyone can take or make. We are teaming with Roice-Hurst Humane Society to offer solutions to people that would like to have the benefits of having a pet, but just don't have the time to dedicate. Please welcome Anna Stout, the Roice-Hurst Humane Society CEO, as she explains the joy of fostering pets. Anna?
Thank you so much, John. And I'll let you know that my goal here today is to sort of dispel some of the fear around fostering. A couple of the things that we hear really frequently are, I would never be able to let it go. So I don't want to even start this because it'll be too hard to say goodbye. We hear a lot of people say, I can't have a pet because my life is too unpredictable. I am finally at the point in my life that I can travel, so I don't want to commit to a pet. Or I'm concerned about my longevity and I don't want to commit to a pet that might outlive me and that I can't make that, the commitment to the rest of the pet's life. So we have a lot of those kinds of concerns that come up, especially around fostering. And what I'd like to do today is really dispel the idea that fostering is too hard to do, either from a care standpoint or from an emotional standpoint, and the idea that pets don't fit my lifestyle right now. So we're really gonna delve into a lot of that, and I'm gonna go ahead and start sharing my screen so we can get into the presentation. And Allison, it's still showing that it's disabled, so let me know when I'm able to share. There we go. All right, so we will start just really quickly with the fact that more than anything, fostering is joyful. During the first part of the pandemic, happened to have a couple of little tiny baby kittens that had been found at our local landfill, and they were living with me. And I can't tell you how often I would go into the kitten room where I was fostering, where I was keeping my fosters, and all of the anxiety and all of the uncertainty and all of the stress that was being caused by, everything that was going around the world would just dissipate from me. And I would just sit there on the floor. I'd leave my phone in the kitchen and I would just sit there with these babies and feed them and then watch them climb all over and play and be clumsy. And I would giggle, and I realized how much joy they were actually bringing into my life. So we're going to talk about that today. First of all, I'd like to introduce the Roice-Hurst Humane Society. This is the Regional Humane Society over here in Grand Junction, Colorado. We also have a satellite facility in Delta. So we serve over here on the Western Slope. We've been around since 1963, which means we are going on 60 years next year. Our mission is to promote bonds between pets and their people. And the really critical part about this is that we're an animal shelter that is very focused on the people aspect of an animal shelter. The fact that pets don't walk in on their own and they don't walk out on their own. We know that people love their pets profoundly. In some cases, their pets are their most beloved thing in their world. And so it is our mission to make sure that we're promoting those bonds, that we're creating them through adoption, that we're preserving them through our programs, and that we're celebrating them through everything we do. In 2021, we served over 840 lost and homeless pets, and we are on track this year to far surpass that. We are so much more than a shelter, and we have programs such as our pet pantry to provide free supplies to people who are going through hard times, food, collars, leashes, crates, whatever it is that people need to be able to keep those pets whole while they're waiting on their next paycheck. We do behavior counseling for pets that are not behaving the way that we want them to behave to live harmoniously in our world. We do low-cost vaccination clinics to make sure pets are healthy. And we have a crisis boarding program for people who are going through short-term crises and don't have a place to stay or don't have a place for their pets to stay. Something like somebody going into the hospital, going into an inpatient treatment program, people who are in between jobs and or in between houses and are just not able to keep that pet for that time. We don't want those kinds of crises to turn into people not having their pets at all, because a short-term crisis should not result in a permanent separation from those pets. And for people who are in a more precarious situation, a more either a chronically homeless situation or a true homeless situation, even if it's short-term, we have a program with our local homeless shelter called Homeward Hounds, and that's at Homeward Bound to the Grand Valley, which are private, heated, air-conditioned, safe shelters that people can be in individually with their pets, so that they never have to choose staying out on the streets or in a dangerous situation in order to not have to give up their pet. So one of our programs is foster care. And foster care for pets is a temporary arrangement in which a volunteer like yourselves care for a pet in your home leading up to adoption. During that foster care period, we provide all of the veterinary care and supplies. So that includes food, that includes litter, that's regular vaccines as they come up, and anything that an animal is going through that might be even more intensive, such as a dental or any other kind of medical care. So this doesn't cost our fosters anything. Typical, other than all of the love that they put into it. A typical foster stay is anywhere from just a couple of days for an animal to just decompress it out of the shelter or to go into a foster home and get adopted right away. And sometimes it's a lot longer, up to a couple of months, depending on what the pet needs. In some cases, if we're talking about tiny neonatal babies, we're talking about having them from sometimes 0 days old all the way up until they're available for adoption, which would be as early as 8 weeks. So we're talking about a 2-month stay for those kinds of pets. And we have some that need more, more time to decompress, to learn how to be a good house pet, or that are going through diagnosis and treatment of different conditions. And so those ones might also be longer stay pets as well. But I think the point here is that regardless of your availability and of your preferences and your needs, there are foster pets to fit your lifestyle. So what we love about it is that for somebody who is, hoping to travel a lot more, or, just doesn't want or have time for the long-term commitment, fostering gives you the ability to have a pet and to benefit from all of those human-animal bond benefits that we have. So an increase in our feel-good chemicals like our dopamine and our serotonin, decrease in feelings of isolation, increase in activity, all of those things that come with having a pet come with having a foster pet as well, but without that long-term commitment. And our foster program, I think there may be a misconception that the only thing that people foster are either medical cases or teeny tiny babies, and that's just not the case. And this has shifted a lot, especially in light of the pandemic. Any animal that's in our shelter or on our waiting list is eligible for foster care. The ones that we really commonly talk about are our teeny tiny little bottle babies, and you can see 2 of them down below, and they need a little bit more, around the clock care. They need regular feedings. We also have weaned kittens and puppies, so those are a little bit older ones who don't need bottle feeding but still aren't old enough for adoption. Our adult cats and dogs of all needs and all ages and all stripes. our medical pets, of course, and some of the ones that just need some behavioral modification or socialization, which in a lot of cases is just confidence building. And that comes from being in a home and being provided constant feelings of safety, a routine, predictability, and that's where that trust building happens. So we have all levels of intensity in terms of need. And we also often send pregnant mamas to go, live their pregnancy in a home and then give birth in a home. So those babies know what it is to be in a home from day one. And they're frankly pretty easy to handle because mom does all the work. What's great for pets is that a foster environment is so much more beneficial to a pet. It doesn't matter how great a shelter is, how wonderful the staff is, how experienced the staff is, how wonderful the environment is built within the shelter. It is never a preference over being in a home environment when we have that option. And the reason for that is that unless a shelter is staffed at 24 hours a day, which most are not, those animals don't have that constant sense of that constant attention. And even if we did have 24-hour staffing, that wouldn't necessarily mean 24 hours of individual attention and meeting those very individual needs of a pet 24 hours a day. So coming into a home, they're able to be in a home environment and behave like they do in a home. It's also a lot less stressful. A shelter environment, as I said, no matter how good it is still stressful for pets because there are many unfamiliar smells, lots of noise. There's people coming in and looking at them, strange people. And so that can be really stressful for a pet. And part of what that contributes to is when a pet's stressed, it lowers their resistance. So they're more likely to get sick, especially if they're exposed to new animals and to new pathogens. So when we take them out of the shelter environment, we lower their risk of getting sick. We increase their feelings of well-being. We lower the risk that we're going to have shelter-developed behaviors, negative behaviors, because it is stressful. A lot of animals will start to develop habits, sort of survival habits within a shelter that A, don't give us an idea of how the animal truly will behave in a home, and B, might actually make it harder for them to get adopted. So when we have a pet in a home, we get to know their really true personality. And that actually helps us when it comes time to getting them adopted, because we can promote them based on how they will behave in a home, rather than what we anticipate based on behaviors we've seen in a shelter. So when we have pets in foster care and our fosters are able to tell us all about the pet, we're able to do a better job matching them to the right home in the first place. And that also decreases the instances that pets are brought back because it just didn't work out. Also, like I said before, that individualized care and attention is really important. And that pet is, right at the center of somebody's world. And that's really important for their development. And for our pets that need that really intensive around-the-clock care, it is the difference between life and death. So this is a wonderful thing for people who have a lot of time and who have consistency in their schedule and being at home, and especially for people who have any baseline knowledge of the medical fields, whether that's human or pet. In many cases, it's just a matter of dosing medication for a pet, giving antibiotics on a schedule. And in other cases, it's needing to put a feeding tube in a tiny baby. And so having any experience in those fields is something we can actually work with you and train you into a level of comfort dealing with all of those special medical needs. But it's not just about the pets. When we foster pets, we also have major human benefits to ourselves. So there have been so many studies, especially recently, that are showing that animal companionship, the human-animal bond and human-animal interactions provide profound mental and physical health. And this is from, decreasing the reported feelings of isolation, to increasing activity, to just having, actually touching a pet leads to our bodies being flooded with those very positive brain chemicals, like our serotonin, our attachment chemicals. When we have people who are going through medical events, there's research that shows that people who have pets actually have better outcomes in the end. When you have a dog like Ginger over here on the side, Ginger was a little overweight, and so needing to get her out and needing to walk her and socialize her because she needs it, you get it as well. There's also the sense of purpose, and purpose more and more in research is being shown to be an incredible driver for well-being, for longevity, and for overall feelings of life satisfaction. Also, as I mentioned at the very beginning, I think there is some hesitation at times about, I don't want to foster because I will never be able to let them go. I think when we enter a fostering relationship, understanding what our role is in that pet's life, and not thinking that, I'm the only one who can love this pet and I'm going to get so attached to this pet, but instead starting with the mentality of, I have a role to play for this pet, and I get to be a stepping stone between this pet and the person who's going to also love him as much as I do and love him forever. It actually makes it easier to let them go because we're playing a role, as opposed to sort of taking on that sort of self all-important role of, I have to love this pet forever. It's a really, really satisfying thing, especially when you do that with multiple pets and that I have one foster space in my home. And the only way that I can, benefit the most number of pets is if I let this one go to its forever home so that I make another space for another pet that needs that. And then you really do get this sense of having a purpose in that pet's life. And then in terms of what it does for bringing people together, when you have a foster pet, it's really great for, my grandmother, she actually has a cat that she adopted, but in the community that she lives in, having that cat after my grandfather died the cat came into her life after my grandfather died. It became a social thing for her and her friends. Her friends would stop by to see that cat, to meet that cat, to spend time with the cat. And it really elevated her sense that she had this robust social life, even during the really difficult pandemic shutdowns. And so, when you have these foster pets, they're great for grandkids, they're great for neighbor kids, they're great for families to come and get to help with that socialization and care process. And in our community, when we look at when we go from pet to person to community, we really look at the fact that the foster care network that we have is an extension of our shelter. And if we only can take care of the pets that we have physical space within our building to care for, our ability to care for pets is really limited. It's physically limited. So by having a foster network and by people like you opening their homes to these pets, it literally increases the capacity of our shelter to the number of people who are willing and able to do so. And so what that does is it helps us keep our waiting lists lower. It helps us move pets in more quickly into our system, whether it's on site or in foster care, who may be in precarious situations or who may not really have anywhere else to be. So when you open your home to a foster pet, you're actually serving a much broader base of the community by allowing us then to be able to use the space in the shelter for animals who really do need very specialized care by our team. What we're seeing right now with the housing crisis and the cost of living go up and the fallout from the pandemic is that in the time that I've been here, this is the longest our waiting lists have gotten over the last couple of years. And people are in very desperate situations right now that they can't control. And it's a real challenging situation right now to be an animal shelter that has higher numbers of animals needing to come in and lower numbers of people who are able to adopt because of those same factors. So having the ability to put an animal into a temporary home and know that we have time to figure out where they go and who their forever home is really beneficial. It's also, during the pandemic, we saw our fostering tick up, but we've also seen that continue. I think there were some concerns that people were going to adopt, and then once the pandemic was over, turn those pets back over to the shelters, and we have not seen that happen the way that some people feared and predicted. But we've also seen that people are realizing that I don't have to go all the way to the shelter and go through, like, put leashes on dogs and walk them around the track to be able to benefit pets and to volunteer. This is a way to volunteer from home and fitting an animal and your volunteer time into your regular life. So this is something that we really think that the animal shelters in our community and in any community are part of the overall community health, and we're a pillar of health in the community. And that's where your fostering benefits you and our entire valley. So how do you foster? I have to say that the first time I realized that I could be a foster home, I was in my early 20s, and I had walked into PetSmart, and there was a shelter there with a table. And as I walked in, there were some kittens there, and I, of course, was over the moon to see these kittens. And she said to me, "Well, we need foster homes. You could foster." And I remember thinking, "What do you mean I could foster? That's something that's like a magical thing that other people get to do, have these teeny little baby kittens in their home." And I remember just being so, having this perception that it was something that other people got to do, and that there needed to be some kind of specialized something for me to be able to do it. And realizing that I could do it, and that anyone who has a safe place, time, and love to give can be a foster and really make a difference in animals' lives it was pretty mind-boggling for me. So all you have to do is sign up on our website. We also have forms available at the shelter if you prefer to do that on paper. And what we do is we put you into our system. You get an email, and you can see a link with all of our pets that are available for adoption or foster. And anything that's available for adoption is also available for foster. And many of them are only available for foster because they're not yet ready for adoption because of a medical issue or an age issue or whatever else is a barrier to adoption. And if you want, you can just come down to the shelter, and we'll make an appointment with our foster coordinator to show you which pets are available and let you get to know their personalities and see which one is going to best fit your lifestyle. And then we send you home with the pet and all of the supplies that you need. Many of our fosters do opt to provide some of their own supplies. I know when I foster, I just find it a lot easier not to go down and get extra litter, or not to go down and get extra food, and just let them use the supplies that my pets use. But if you take a pet from us, we provide everything that you need, and you just let us know, and we get that to you. And then while the pet is in your care, we have the pet available for adoption. If it's adoptable, we have it available for adoption on our website, and people can see the pets. And then we work with you to arrange showings if somebody wants to meet the pet. But the really cool thing is you become an ambassador for that pet. And our fosters are actually some of our best adoptions counselors. You know the pet, you're in love with the pet, you're maybe taking it out on walks, maybe having friends come over, and they meet those pets and they see that you love them. And it's really rewarding to have somebody you know and love that you have now placed this pet with. I had some cats this year that I was madly in love with these kittens because they were just awesome kittens. And I was so excited because the home that they went to, they took two kittens, one after the other, one a couple, 4 weeks later or so. And I get regular updates from that family because, it was such an organic way to find a home for these pets. So it's rewarding. I get pictures of them all the time. I know they're doing great. So we either help you find an adopted family, or you can help do that as well as an ambassador for your pet. So if you're ready to sign up, we are ready to send a pet with you. If you want more information, though, we can absolutely help you with that. We're here to kind of dispel a lot of the myths about what it's like. And we have a Facebook network for our fosters, and we have different ways that you can get support from other fosters, whether that's support on like this pet is doing this, what do I do? Or I'm feeling this, what do I do? It's a really great support network. So I'm going to stop screen sharing here so that I can respond to any questions that folks might have about the process and about what it's like, or any other questions that anyone may have.
If anybody has any questions, please feel free to throw it in the chat, and we will make sure that Anna gets them.
And I will plug as well, Roice-Hurst has an amazing foster network and foster support system, but no matter where you are, your local shelter or the other shelters here in Western Colorado, everybody is in need of fosters. So anywhere you are, the organization that's local to you or that's dear to you could use your love. There's also, if you're not sure about how to get started, or if you're not sure if you want to do what this is going to be like, you can do a sleepover and you can take a pet home and see how it works out that first, a couple of nights. And it's a really good way to see, how you're feeling about it. And, the one guarantee that we give you is if something's not working, we are there to be problem solvers with you. So if it just turns out that if you foster a dog, and you get home and you're like, this dog is just, it's not working. He can't, for example, I just realized he can't fit through my doggy door. That would be something that we would absolutely work to, to bring that pet back, or figure out if there are ways to troubleshoot that. Or if you just, you find that the pet's just not comfortable there, or isn't getting along with other family members, whether those are four-legged or otherwise, we work with you so that you're never stuck with that. You never have a pet that you're not comfortable with, or the pet's not comfortable there. We don't ever want that to be a negative experience for you or the pet. So we work with you until we find that pet that makes the most sense for you. And then we work with you to care for him or her and get him or her adopted. So John, I'm not sure if there's anything you wanted to add. We're here for any questions if anybody has any. Otherwise, we're available through the shelter at any point to answer those questions as well. And one thing I should add, I think that sometimes people have concerns about, what if I take an animal that has special needs that I don't know what to do, or what happens if the animal gets sick and crashes in the middle of the night on a Sunday. We actually have an on-call foster phone that's available. So any questions that you have, or any issues that you're having that you need to get a hold of our team, or need to get emergency medical care for that pet, we're available. And I think that that's something that, I would be really concerned about if I had to make decisions without having, without having that reassurance that I would have that support. We definitely provide that.
One of the questions, Anna, is after a pet goes from foster home to a permanent home, are follow-ups done to make sure the adoption is working out?
Yes, actually, that's a really great question. We do a 3-day, 3-week, and 3-month follow-up to make sure that there are no, we don't want anyone to feel like they've taken a pet and they're having issues and they're on their own with it. That's where we have our pet behavior counselors who are available to step in. If we see any other issues that are coming up, we do try to problem solve those with people. So at the 3-day mark, if we're having issues, we can either, we can either bring the pet back if it's very obvious that it's not going to work, or we can provide some resources and check back in. For some of our animals that have more special needs or are a little bit more complicated, we'll check in more frequently. Usually our behavior team or our medical team, depending on what the issue is, would do that. But we do want to make sure that everything feels very supported from the very beginning to the very, till the adoption feels nice and solid.
And if I'm interested in becoming being a foster care client, will you help me better understand what type of animal might be best for me and my personality?
Absolutely. So the same way that we do our adoption counseling, we do foster counseling. So when you sign up to be a foster, you talk to our foster coordinator, and that's exactly what the idea is. It's almost like kind of a dating profile where you're talking about, I love long walks. Well, great. We're not going to give you a dog that can't go on long walks for medical purposes or some reason. Or if it's, I want a really low key house, we're not going to send you home with one of the hyperest animals that we have. So really it's about looking at what your expectations are, what your needs are, what your home is set up for, what the other pets in your home, if there are any, would prefer, or if you don't have any pets, really looking at, are you interested in taking one of our pets who can't be around other pets, and that would be an ideal situation for that pet. So there's very much a process of getting to know you and getting to know what your specific foster animal needs and wishes are, and then working to match you to that pet. And I should add too that, sometimes people come into it with a real specific idea. I want to foster a mini poodle. That is typically not an easy way to start fostering, because the more specific those expectations are, then we're waiting until we have that specific animal. And if the hope is to foster the highly adoptable pet, those are going to get adopted really quickly. Even if they move into your foster home, the odds of them getting adopted quickly are high. So it's a lot better if you describe the type of animal. So I really like a small pet. I'd really like a small dog. I'd really like a female because I have another female in the home, or because I just, prefer having a female. I would like one that doesn't need medical care, or one that does. So the more that sort of the broad descriptions of what you're looking for, the more likely we're going to be able to place a pet. And I think that I probably should address what happens if I do fall in love with the animal, because I think there is some fear of that. And my initial response is, you don't have to keep the animals that you foster. That's the whole point of the foster program, is for it to be a temporary solution for the pets. But for some people who get that pet into the home and just go, nope, you know what, this has become a part of our ecosystem and this pet belongs here and I have to keep this pet, that is okay. And that happens. And fostering can be like a trial adoption. And whether it's for that pet or just for having a pet in general, it's a really good way to gauge your own readiness for having a pet, or to see if that specific pet is going to fit well with your lifestyle and your expectations. So foster successes are common. We don't call them foster failures at our organization. They're not uncommon, but again, it's not the expectation. It's not a trick to try to get you to take a pet home as a foster and then keep it forever. That's absolutely not what we're asking for. I fostered many kittens. I like all of the battered and broken ones. They're my favorites. And I generally do not keep them. If I did, I would probably have 50 cats by now. So it's a really rewarding thing, but there are occasions that we fall so deeply in love with the pets that they stay.
Most seniors and are also on fixed incomes. What can I anticipate as being the annual cost of fostering a pet?
$0. So anybody who takes a pet from us can count on us providing the food, the litter, medical supplies. We send you home with bowls, with a litter box, whatever, and towels, whatever the supplies are needed for any individual pet. Those are provided by us. Things like formula, bottles, the nipples for the bottles, the warming pads, those are all included in the foster kit. We check that out to you, and then when the foster gets adopted, we check that stuff back in, the non-consumable stuff. So obviously we expect the food and the litter not to come back, but all of those go with the pet. And I guess if we're talking total calculation, whatever gas it costs to drive to the shelter to pick the animal up is probably what I would consider the expense to be.
Well, that makes it almost too easy.
It is very easy. And again, that was my reaction. The first time I realized I could actually take vulnerable animals home and care for them and get them adopted, it was amazing to me. I had no concept that just, regular people like me could do that. And we try to remove all the barriers possible so that the animals have that benefit, our fosters have the benefit of having a pet, and it really, truly are some of our absolute best fosters are our retirees and our older population, because they have so much time in many cases to give. And it may not be that they can give that time for months on end because they're traveling and exploring and enjoying all of the joys of retirement. But in those in-betweens, it's a really, really, if there's not demands to go to a job, then having those pets there and getting to spend time with them and take them out, it's a really, really rewarding way for folks who are not certain that they're ready for a forever commitment with a pet, or are wary of making that commitment. It's a really, really good way to still have a furry creature in your life.
And I understand that Meals on Wheels provides pet food. And are there other organizations that also have programs similar to that?
Absolutely. So we have a pet pantry through our shelter, and our pet pantry supplies food to pet food to many of the human organizations, the human service organizations. So organizations like Meals on Wheels, Catholic Outreach, Mutual Aid Partners, and these are for owned pets. For the foster pets, it's already included. But if you have pets of your own, and you know, it is getting harder and harder to stretch a dollar these days. And if you find yourself in between, you know, in between deposits and are having a hard time, we don't want anybody to choose to feed their pet over themselves. So we have that food available through ourselves and through the other organizations that I mentioned. There's also a pet pantry here that opens once a month. I believe they're located out in Palisade, called the Colorado Pet Pantry. So one time a month you can go in and also get supplies there as well.
Again, you seem to make it awfully easy. So I'm hoping that there will be a number of people who at least make inquiries and will take advantage of the program that you are sponsoring. Are there any other questions for Anna before we close out today's session? Hearing none. Anna, thank you so very much. Is there contact information that you want to give people to help them know when and where to get in touch with you?
Absolutely. I will. I'm going to reshare my screen really quickly with the foster information. And our phone number is 970-434-7337. And inquiries can be directed there. But the easiest way is just go right to our website, rhumanesociety.org/foster, and fill out an application, and that gets the process rolling.
Well, thank you so much, Anna. This has been extremely informative. As you know, AARP has well over 450,000 members throughout the state of Colorado. This recording is going to be made available to many of our members on the Western Slope. And so if we have any questions or comments, we'll be sure to be in touch with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I hope to see folks on our upcoming webinar as well about planning for your pets. So we're going to talk about, for folks who do have pets and who are not doing temporary foster situations, how to make sure that you've got all the plans in place for what happens if you're unable to care for them, whether that's temporarily or permanently. So I really hope to see folks on that, and it'll be a really interesting and fun conversation about, I love planning. Planning is one of my favorite things to do. And so we'll make planning for our pets a lot more fun than daunting.
Well, once again, thank you. Have a great day. And for those of you out there, join us in promoting this program. And if you're interested, get in touch with Anna. Thanks a lot for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And we hope to see you on November 24th for our follow-up session, as Anna just mentioned. Have a great day.